Hey, everybody. Thank you again for taking the time to join Mr. Letzer and myself. We are here for another edition of 401 Conversations. I am Mike Neeley with Equity 401k Consultants, your owner / founder / lead investment consultant / financial advisor. And of course, I am joined by my partner in crime again, Mr. Thad Letzer from NAPA 401k Associates. Thad, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Mike. Good to be here. Good to see you.
Good to be back again for another one of these. And you recently just spent some time down in sunny San Diego, right at the NAPA Conference. And we teased in the last 401 conversation that we were going to talk a little bit about NAPA and your experience while you were down there.
Yeah.
So how was the conference overall? And what is an important key takeaway you can bring back for our listeners and subscribers?
Well, NAPA is always a great opportunity to, it's like a family reunion. Everyone from all over the industry, TPAs, record keepers, advisors. Everybody sort of congregates together, and a good chance to catch up with what people are up to. Particularly record keepers, get updates on what everyone's doing, get everyone's pulse. But I'll tell you, one of my key takeaways leaving that conference was Secure 2.0, right? And not, we didn't get a whole bunch of takeaways about, how this piece of legislation is going to be handled and, the impacts of that. Really, the takeaway was it's going to be a heavy lift. All these multiple pieces of legislation as part of the new regs, it's going to take the record keepers. Just coding, some of these new provisions into their platforms is going to take time, and it's going to take money. And so that was sort of an interesting takeaway to think about the world of record keepers. I think Secure 2.0 is really going to show us who's in it to win it and who's kind of only in it as an accommodation or as sort of a part-time gig, to really what their core practices might be. I was talking to some guys from different record keepers. They're thinking that it's a minimum $10 million spend for the coding to get all of these new wrinkles from Secure 2.0 ironed out onto the record keeping platforms. So, if you're a smaller provider, is it worth it to spend 10 million bucks, so that you can continue in the 401k biz? You gotta bring on a lot of clients to cover that net,
Yeah. And, we talked about this when we did the first one of these and we discussed Secure 2.0. And just like the first iteration of the Secure Act that came at the end of 2019, there's still provisions within that we're still getting advice on from the IRS and the Department of Labor.
Yeah.
And then now we have this bigger overhaul. And while there are a lot of really good things that are happening, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute, it's still an overhaul to the industry, and it's still bringing about a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And you're right, that is going to take money to get systems up to be compatible.
It's going to take time and money.
And all of those resources are probably going to, like you also mentioned, maybe create some consolidation in the industry. And some of the maybe other insurance companies or smaller, record keeper platforms that exist out there, it might not make sense for them anymore to continue to exist. And so that presents a situation where maybe a larger record keeper like Empower or Trans or Voya will come in and take up that business because they have the ability and the wherewithal to be able to handle these changes that are coming. Because technology and tracking is going to be huge for some of these
Yeah.
changes. So it's certainly not a small undertaking. And I'm not surprised that at a national conference that brings together everybody in the retirement plan industry would continue to have as a main part of it and a main takeaway from the conference about Secure 2.0. Well, but on the other end of it, I'm sure you got to enjoy the nice sunny San Diego weather, because the conference did come at a time when the weather did shift here. So that's always good. So you get a mixture of learning about all these new changes and a chance to be down in San Diego. So
Spring is certainly upon us.
sounds like all in all, it was a good time.
No complaints. But the other thing too, Mike, is you talk about the expense that the record keepers are going to have to take on to get compliant. Sponsors are probably also going to start seeing some invoices from their administrators because of these requisite amendments to their documents to update. So, there's going to be expense for everybody down the line. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it as a sponsor, but just get ready for maybe some surprise invoices, for some required amendments.
Well, and that also brings up another point that, as we've talked about in our prior editions of this, that periodic benchmarking, can help in that this might be an opportunity as these changes come to reevaluate your plan if you haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. Now might be a good time, or, if any of this consolidation does start percolating up, gosh, that's a perfect time to say, hey, do we just press forward with whoever just bought our record keeper, or, is now the time for us to kind of look at what else is out there on the table before we get gobbled up by some of the survivors?
Yeah, definitely. There's always, I think, ample opportunity as a plan sponsor to make sure that you're getting the best value for what you're paying. Again, and I say value because it's not always about the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
But if your evaluation and the value you're getting from your entire team is, creating a really great employee benefit for the company, then, but that from taking the time to evaluate. So, this could bring ample opportunity. I want to shift gears.
Okay.
Because we're in an important time of the year, and that is tax time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in California, tax season's a little different this year, obviously, because of the way that most of the state was declared a disaster zone by FEMA, and the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board here in California has given some relief. But even under normal circumstances, if you're putting off your filing and you're extending your filing out till September,
all right,
you still have time to start a plan for tax year 2022 to take advantage of the tax breaks that can still exist for you, with the caveat, of course, you're not going to have employee contributions for 2022, obviously, because that time has passed, but you can still make that profit share contribution. You can still set up a pension plan and make a contribution, and you can still set up a cash balance plan and make contributions. So there is still ample opportunity if you are looking for ways to save on taxes,
assuming you haven't already funded a SEP.
That's true.
Yeah,
there's always going to be caveats. So let me also, for all our friends in compliance, say that we're not giving you tax advice. You need to speak to your tax advisors, your CPA, your enrolled agent, whoever that may be, for your particular situation, to make sure that you can still take advantage of these things that we're talking about. But they do exist. And I think the other great part, thanks to Secure 2.0, is that there is plenty of tax help to come in the way of expenses for starting your retirement plan if you've got less than 50 employees for this year.
Yeah.
We talked about briefly just a second ago about how, things are shifting for record keepers. There's a looming thing coming. For better, for worse, whatever your opinion may be, auto enrollment is going to be a staple that is going to have to be there in your plan starting in 2025.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, guys. While auto enrollment is going to be a must-have feature to your 401k plan, then if you do it now, you don't have to wait. You can also get a $500 tax credit for having auto enrollment in your plan for the next 3, plan years. So you get essentially $1,500 back from the government over 3 years to have the auto enrollment feature.
Yeah, the auto enroll is going to be mandated for anybody that didn't have a plan. If you had your plan in place prior to 2023, you'd be grandfathered in. So you wouldn't be subject to the mandate that will be effective in 2025.
Right.
So to your point, any plans that started this year or later, if they don't come out the gate with auto enroll, they're going to have to implement auto enroll effective in 2025. So, but to your point, yeah, if you want to put it in now and get those extra tax credits that are available to auto enroll plans, that's not a bad idea.
Well, and with the failures that sometimes happen in the non-discrimination testing that has to happen every year, having auto enrollment can help with some of that, especially if you're not a safe harbor, because some of the times you need more participation from the rank and file. You need more coming in so that your highly comps can be able to put away a higher percentage if you're not safe harbor.
Well, listen, man, there's also the match credits, right? I mean, from 2.0, you also now employers are going to get, up to $1,000 in credits per employee that makes less than 100 grand a year, right? So it's not for your higher paid folks, but for your folks that make less than 100 grand a year, the IRS is giving you a $1,000 up to $1,000 credit, right? So if Mike gets a $900 match and Thad only gets a $750 match based on what we're contributing, I don't still get a $1,000 credit for those guys, but there's more incentive. Granted, the employer's got to spend money in the match that he doesn't have to spend or she doesn't have to spend in auto enroll, but those are both a couple of different strategies to increase participation, auto enroll or sweetening the pot with a match.
And I often get asked by plan sponsors, how do we up participation?
Mm-hmm.
And while there is a pretty large emphasis on, education as part of an advisor's job to help with getting more participation in the plan, and I'm all for it,
Mm-hmm.
especially because the studies and the surveys that are out there show that employees want financial wellness programs. They want help. They don't want to do it on their own. And while that does help, there have been plenty of research studies done that show by adding auto enrollment, most of those employees that probably wouldn't go out and start into the plan themselves, if they're auto enrolled, most of the time, they don't take themselves out of it. Because while they're thinking that their contribution is going to make their paycheck less, that is true because some of the money is going to go, but because it's pre-tax, it also kind of lessens the blow to the overall paycheck, which can certainly help them. And it doesn't turn out in some cases to take a lot away. Auto enrollment can be a great thing to help get participation up. While you might upset a couple of employees or a few employees, the vast majority are going to benefit. And for those that, don't want to participate, it's super easy for them to go and, say, hey, I don't want to participate.
Yeah.
While I can understand some of the trepidation that comes from plan sponsors about auto enrollment and forcing people into the plan, I think we find when you actually implement and look at it, that you get more benefit for your employees and more support for the plan than you would by trying to herd cats to enroll into the plan. Because, we've all done it. We've done the enrollment meetings. We get people the kits. We tell them how to do it and get on, but they lag behind, getting into the plan. So
a lot of that is just inertia, to your point. Some of that isn't, I refuse to save or I can't afford, some of that is just inertia. So auto enroll removes some of that inertia to participation. If you start at a low enough percentage, right, where once it's taken out pre-tax, most folks wouldn't really notice it or care about, that negligible difference. But it is probably, pretty industry specific. I'm sure, some viewers would say, man, not in my industry. People see every penny. And so that's fine. I mean, that's a reality. Like you got to understand your employee group, every demographic is different. So,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
your points are sage. I mean, everything you said is true. You just need to understand, your own employee group.
Definitely. Well, Thad, I think we've covered quite a bit in this
Feels like
edition.
it.
So, everybody, thank you again for taking the time to listen to us. We really want to provide this information because at our ultimate goal here is to help provide value and to make sure that you're getting the information to make your plan the best plan that it can be for your business and for your plan participants, to really help them have a future retirement benefit and for you to get the most out of it that is possible while you're sponsoring it. And I think the moral of the story from today's session is there's a lot of tax incentive and a lot of tax help to help make that a reality for you. And if you have questions about any of these things, if it's tax specific, get to your tax advisor, talk to them about it. They can help guide you and tell you what to do and help provide you the specific formulas and how that's going to help you with your tax situation. But if you have questions in general around the plan, you want an objective third-party opinion, or you're interested in starting one, whatever it may be, my contact information as at the end of this video, as always, it'll be in the show notes. And if you have questions for Thad, you can reach Thad at Nova 401k Associates. We always throw his information in there as well. So again, if this is providing value to you, please pass it on. Please subscribe because there's going to be plenty more coming. We've got future shows planned and also hopefully some interviews and things that we can bring in to help you create a fantastic retirement plan benefit. So Thad, thanks again for joining me on these. Appreciate you, buddy.
My pleasure. That was fun.
Excited for future ones.
All right.